Hey everyone, it's Larry Smith of the Commander Smiths here with Kraken Precons, I guess. I got all four of the Fallout Commander decks that they kind of came out with. I am excited to go through all of them with you. Anybody that shows up on live or just make some comments afterwards. Again, I talk fairly slow, and so if you speed this up 1.5 times, you'll be able to keep up if you're not watching this live. Otherwise, let me know what cards you're excited to play with, open up, um, build with whatever. I'm actually going to be building the Wise Mothman. I'm going to be doing, what am I doing? I want to do a Lurgoyf, Tarmogoyf type build where it's just kind of mill everybody and get everybody kind of big creatures. Um, I think Adam's kind of working on a persistent petitioners of this as well. So that could be fun as well. I don't know if he's gonna actually like do anything with that other than let's see, what do we got here? Well, there we go. All right. I normally give my kids these little things to push out and fun for them to do a little bit of. Don't need that. I'll keep those. What is that? Just an envelope? Envelope. Get rid of that. Oh, and a box. We'll keep the box. Let's see here. Let's crack that, huh? All right, let's see here. We have the collector booster sample pack. And let's see how this goes. Let's see here. All right. Nothing there. The Motherlode Excavator, 5 mana, enters the battlefield. Choose target opponent. You get an amount of energy equal to the number of non-basic lands that player. That could be a lot of energy. And then whenever it attacks, you may pay 4 energy. When you do, destroy target non-basic land defending player controls, and creatures that player control without flying can't block this turn. Not terrible. Next one. Ooh, foil Sulphur Falls. Full art. I like that. I can dig that. I know they're reprinting these a lot more, but that's a pretty card right there. All right, let's see what we got. Ooh, the Mothman. I don't plan on reading everything, but I also don't know everything, so I might read everything. I don't know. All right, the Wise Mothman. Oh yeah, I should probably say the Commander Smiths. We are a podcast that records every Monday night live here on YouTube, and if you don't want to do that, we put out an audio on every streaming platform on Wednesdays afternoon, morning ish. We are always on time at 9 o'clock sharp Mondays. So please join us. We also do short videos. I do curated. I'll put that out tomorrow. Sup, Scott? Mothman and Food Chain go stop, run shy. Food Chain, every deck, right? It's in every deck, or it can be. I've never played with it, so I don't know what it is. Even we don't. I am fully telling the truth about 9 o'clock sharp. There's just a countdown that starts then, unless something has gone horribly wrong, which happens. It happens, but not normally. So the Wise Mothman, gonna be building that bad boy. He's pretty cool, but flying whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks. I don't know why I call it a he, it's a moth. Each player gets a rad counter, which basically during let's see here. Join the and but rad counter is like basically at a saga step. So right after untap draw upkeep, you mill cards as many rad counters as you have on you. And for each non-land card, you get to remove a rad counter, and you lose a life, and you're milling then many rad counters. So it's kind of like mill, but also damage. It's kind of like I don't know. Some people I think are trying to make it into a mill deck, and if that's their prerogative, they can. Mine is kind of going to be this is just a commercial to a commercial, but I'll probably build it next week. But I plan on trying to just make my creatures huge, not just with the counters, but like I said, Lurgoyf cares about how many creatures are in there. Mortivore, you got Terravore. there's only like 6 of them, but then you got like Bone Horde that cares about creatures in the graveyard, and there's a couple of other cards that really like stuff in the graveyards, and that's kind of what I'm going for. I don't think I'm going to get the blue one in time. I don't even have it on the way, so likely won't show up. Likely wasn't going to make the deck anyway. But all right, rad counters. And then whenever one or more non-land cards are milled, which is cool because it doesn't have to be rad counters, but put a 1/1 counter on each of up to X target creatures, where X is the number of non-land cards milled this way. So that means if somebody mills one, or let's use a better example, like 5 non-land cards, if you have 5 creatures out, you can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one across all of them. If you only have 3, you can only go 1, 2, 3, and then you kind of waste, quote unquote, 2 mills, but that's fine as well. But basically, for every occurrence of mill, you get to spread them out. And so if you have like 2, 2, 2 in instances, then you can pile them up on creatures. But if it's all at once, so like if you mill half a deck or whatever, you as many creatures as you have, you can put a 1/1 counter on stuff, but beyond that, you don't really get to. Uh yeah, it does look cool. So the Mothman, pretty cool. Um yeah. So going with that. All right. I don't know if I've even fully read the Master Transcendent. 2/4. When it ETBs, target player gets 2 rad counters. You can tap it, put target creature card in a graveyard that was milled this turn into the battlefield under your control. It's a green mutant with base power and toughness 3/3. Kind of like that. Food chain. Still, still the food chains. All right. All right. But yeah, Master Transcendent seems pretty cool. I like that. Vexing Rad Goal. 1/2 flying. Do I need to? Yeah. Okay. Everything's going. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 rad counters. And if they don't have any rad counters otherwise, proliferate. Um, that player. Okay. So if they don't have rad counters, they get the rad counters. If not, you get to proliferate. Either way, this is a solid card. I do really like that. Um, I dig that. Bloatfly Swarm. Hey, if there's something cool also from Fallout that you like and you know about Fallout lore and stuff like that, I do not. So if you enjoy it, write in the comments. I have no idea. Um, but I've heard good stuff. I've heard it's a super entertaining game from some people. So let me know. Flying, Bloatfly Swarm enters the battlefield with 5 1/1 counters on it. If damage would be dealt to it while it has 1/1 counters on it, prevent that damage, remove that many 1/1s from it, then give each player a rad counter for each 1/1 counter removed this way. Not a bad deal. That's 4 mana to give rad counters. At least it's a 5/5. I don't know. Do you want to sit back and block with that? Like you block 4/4s, it goes down to 1. You put 1 counters on it as it's going. I don't know. 4 mana. Be aggressive for 5/5 flying. Investing Rad Roach. 2/2 flying, can't block. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they get that many rad counters. And whenever an opponent mills a non-land card, if it's in the graveyard, you may return that card to your hand. That's solid too. I like that quite a bit. Cathedral Acolyte. Each creature you control with a counter on it has Ward 1. Oh, I like that a lot. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature that entered the battlefield this turn. I like that Ward 1. That's quite good. I'm gonna have to get a couple more of those. I don't know how much any of these cards are at this point either. Hopefully cheap, right? Glowing One, Death Touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they get 4 rad counters. Whenever a player mills a non-land card, you gain 1 life. So really in my deck, that'd be like gaining life. I doubt it's gonna do much of that. Uh Lumbering Megaloth. 8/8 costs 1 less for each counter you control among players and permanents. Trample, enters the battlefield tap. So that's can be really good in certain decks. Containment Drink, it's drawing cards, and then you get half X rad counters rounded up. I don't know if I want to take the damage from that, but instant speed for that's not bad deal. Nightkin Ambusher. Whenever it enters the battlefield, target player gets 4 rad counters. and then can't be blocked as long as defending player has rad counters. Ward 2, not bad. I like that. Raul, that was my Spanish name in 7th grade. Maybe probably freshman year, actually, 9th grade. Rad. Come on. Back to the 80s. Raul, once during each of your turns, you may cast a spell from among cards in your graveyard that were milled this turn. Oh, I dig that quite a bit. Each player mills a card. Also dig that quite a bit too. So being able to mill yourself, being able to cast milled cards in your graveyard, I dig that, especially if you're in a self-mill deck. Now, it's a little bit specific, but also 1/4 being able to block. I like that quite a bit. Young Deathclaws, Menace. Each creature card in your graveyard has Scavenge. We already have a card like this. I'm not a huge fan of this one, but I'm glad that it's made. Strength Bobblehead, add a mana of any color. 1/1 counters for the amount of bobbleheads you have. I'm not going to have enough bobbleheads. Not going to play. Cultivate, good. Obviously, good ramp. Farseek, yep. Harmonize, nope. Inspiring Call, the great card. Whenever draw a card for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it, and they are indestructible. Fantastic. I love that card. Rampant Growth is good. Reprint, solid reprint in here too. Putrefy, boring, but I get it. Winding Constrictor, adding counters on a stuff. I dig that. The only thing, and I don't know if so, if you Raul, um, but if you get 1/1 counters, -1/-1 counters put on your creatures, those are also doubled with Winding Constrictor. But otherwise, rad card. They're all rad cards now, right? Arcane Signet, yep. Contagion Clasp, always a little overrated here for me, but with the proliferate part, but I understand why it's there. Soul Ring. I don't I don't know if I can comprehend this art. Is that like a all right, so that's a Nuka-Cola cap. Is that what's going on? Okay. Talisman, talisman, talisman. I don't run talismans or artifact, much artifact ramp in my green decks. I'd rather have like the Farseeks and stuff like that. So, or creatures that are cheap. Ash Barrens, I always dig that. Command Tower for sure. Evolving Wilds, nope. Jason Bright, Glowing Prophet. Exciting. I like this guy a lot. But whenever a zombie or mutant you control that dies, if its power was different from its base power, draw a card. And then you can pay 2, sacrifice a creature, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. It gains flying until end of turn. And so you can sacrifice, put a counter on it, sacrifice that the next turn, put another 1/1 counter on something else, drawing cards. Kind of works in that way. But just if everything has like a +1/+1 boost from a lord and somebody wraths, you're going to be drawing a ton of cards. I like Jason Bright in any zombie deck that has blue in it. Mirelurk Queen, Queen, yeah. Um, Vigilance, ETBs. Target player gets 2 rad counters. That's probably not worth it just for that. Whenever one or more non-land cards are milled, draw a card, then put a 1/1 counter on it. This ability triggers only once each turn. That's actually pretty good. I like that. If you can draw 4 turns by the 4 times by the time it gets to you, that's pretty good. Piper Wright, Public Reporter. If society has fallen from nuclear war, I doubt there's going to be news, but maybe. Deals combat damage to a player. Investigate that many times. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, 1/1 counter on target creature you control. I dig it. I like that a lot. Rad Storm. It has Storm and it has Proliferate. So I dig it. Instant. That's pretty right there. It's probably pretty good. Like if you can proliferate like twice, 3 times, once probably not worth it. But if you can ritual into this twice, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Struggle with for Project Purity. When ETBs choose Brotherhood or Enclave, so one or the other. This is just a siege, right? At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent draws a card. You draw a card for each card drawn this way. So during my upkeep, They all draw 1. I draw 3. That's interesting. Whenever a player attacks you with one or more creatures, that player gets twice that many rad counters. I kinda like both of them. I don't know if I'd like them in the same deck, but I kinda like both of those. Feral Ghoul, Menace. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on Feral Ghoul. Whenever it dies, each opponent gets a number of rad counters equal to its power. So automatically 2, maybe some more. I could dig it. Hancock Ghoulish Mayor. Each other creature you control that's a zombie or mutant gets plus X, where X is the number of counters on Hancock Ghoulish Mayor, and it has Undying. Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be solid as well. Because some zombie decks have sack themes and stuff like that. So Nuclear Fallout. This one seemed pretty good. Sorcery. Each creature gets twice minus X until end of turn. Each player gets X rad counters. So if you're into the rad counters, this is a nice mill or like kill everything, and then also mill with the damage. I like that a lot. Screeching Scorch Beast. This almost made my top 5 on the podcast. This seems really cool. But Flying Menace, whenever it attacks, each player gets 2 rad counters, including yourself. But whenever one or more non-land cards are milled, you may create that many 2/2 black zombie mutant creature tokens. Do this only once each turn. So, but again, by the time it gets back to you, you have 4 2/2s. Well, probably 3. You probably do it during your turn too. So, um, but I like that as just making a creature every turn type thing quite a bit. Vault 12. I'm not going to read sagas. It's too much fucking reading for this, right? But seems cool. Harold and Bob, first Newmans. Let's start picking this stuff up. Maybe not. Vigilance Reach. When it dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield as an aura, enchanted, a forest you control, and taps add 3 mana of any one color. You get 2 rad counters. Harold and Bob loses all other abilities. So it's a 3/3, Vigilance Reach, dies, comebacks on a land, taps, that land taps for 3 of any color. I like that. That's well worth 3. Thanks, Esteban. I'm glad that you enjoy my sagas. Not gonna read that. That's my mostly my opinion. Um, that's a lot of words. Come on. How long do you wanna be listening to this, right? There's only, like, 2 per deck anyway. It's only a couple cards. Alright, but I like that one. That seems pretty cool. That's that's ramp. I don't know if green needs it, but makes a ton of sense there. Lily Bowen, Raging Grandma. Vigilance, ETBs with 2/1/1 counters on it at the beginning of your upkeep. Double the number of 1/1 counters on her if the power is 16 or less. Otherwise, remove all but 1/1/1 counter on it. Then you gain 1 life for each 1/1 counter removed this way. Woof. I don't know if I'd want to get to 16. So it's 2 to 4 the next turn, 4 to 8, 8 to 16. So you get 4 turns with it, and then you gain 15 life. Um, I don't hate it. I don't love it. Maybe it's just one of those cards that gets a lot of counters on it. Power Fist, equipment. Whenever the creature has trample and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put that many 1/1 counters on it. Um, it is what it is. I ain't gonna bash it. I like the trample part. Rampaging Yao Goi. I like this one a lot. But Vigilance Trample, whenever it deal or ETBs put a 1/1 counter on it, then Rampaging enters the battlefield, destroy any number of target artifacts and or enchantments with total mana value X or less. So I like that. That's a nice vigilance trample. You put out something that's going to get like let's say you put like 3 into it. So 6 mana total. You put 3/1/1 counters on it. Artifacts and enchantments of 3 or less all get destroyed. Um, Maybe at that point in the game, you want something a little bit more, but it would be a 5/5 vigilance trample that just destroyed a bunch of treasures, clues, whatnot. So, um, I like that. And then you can just dump as much into it as possible. Strong, the brutish thespian. Ward 2, whenever Strong is dealt damage. You get that 3 rad counters and put 3/1/1 counters on strong. Oh, and then you gain life rather than lose life from radiation. How I kinda like that. 3 rad counters and put 3/1/1 counters on strong. It's just a big beater, though. That gives you rad, so if you're trying to mill yourself, that's not bad. Um, Thinking about the deck that I've been wanting to build with Mothman, um, a little sad that Surveil is not a mill ability, but happy that Dredge is a mill ability. So, glad that there's at least a little bit of give and take there. But Surveil would have been a fun way of doing it too. Um, it's just a big beater in my mind. I don't know if I like that. Uh, Tato Farmer. I'm assuming that is a tomato and a potato mixed together. Tato Farmer. I bet you Adam loved that. But landfall, whenever land ETBs, you may get 2 rad counters and then put target land card in a graveyard that was milled that turn into the battlefield under your control tapped. Um, I really like this card because you can take your opponent's lands as well. So if you can untap that every turn, um, that's some real good ramp right there and seems fun. Watchful Rad Stag. So evolve whenever it evolves, you make a copy of it and then pop, 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 pop. So if that one evolves, then the next one evolves, then you get a third and fourth one, and then they double into 8 if you can keep on getting that first one evolving. But that seems like it's going to get out of hand quickly. Perfect with doubling season. Yeah. All right. Agent Frank Horrigan. Too much mana in my opinion, but 8/6 trample, indestructible if it has attacked this turn. So it's really like in attacking or in the second main phase. That's the only time that it's indestructible. So you could probably throw a Wrath out there or something. But whenever ETBs or attacks proliferate twice, that's pretty nice. I'll admit that part's nice. Alpha Deathclaw, 6 mana, menace, trample. When it ETBs or becomes monstrous, destroy target permanent. Monstrous is 7. Probably not worth it, but atomize, destroy target non-land permanent, and proliferate. I can dig that. Proliferate's pretty good. What's that? It's fucking damaged? Shit. That's always a little disappointing. What's that one? No, no issue there. No issue there. All right, just that one. Great. Just gonna check that corner real quick. Oh, just that card, I guess. All right. Marcus Mutant Mayor. I do like this one too, but Vigilance Trample for 5 mana. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card if it has a 1/1 counter on it, and if it doesn't, put a 1/1 counter on it. So, kind of works together with itself. Mutation Advantage. Permanents you control with counters on them gain hexproof, indestructible until end of turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to those permanents this turn, and proliferate. Doing a lot for 3 mana. That is a great card. Get a couple of those. Volt 87, not going to read that saga either. Boom, winner. Nuke Launcher. Equipment gets +3/+0 and Intimidate, and whenever it attacks until end of turn, defending player there's next turn, that player gets 2 rad counters whenever they cast a spell. Okay, I like that. I mean, most of the time, whenever I hear like attack triggers, I'm thinking like Ishin or Wolfgar, and I don't know if I love either of this and either of them because but like if they cast a spell with Ishin, it's a double trigger, so they get 4 rad counters. Kind of milling. Milling is kind of annoying. You get a little bit of a target on your brain. So I don't know. I don't know how much I love that. Intimidate's kind of nice though. So Recon Craft Theta vehicle whenever ETBs put a 1/1 counter on an alien and then whenever it attacks proliferate 4 mana 4/4 flying crew 2. Oh, you only get a 1/1 counter on it, but you can put more in this deck. I dig that. All right with that. Mariposa, military base. Whenever ETB's tapped, if you do, you get 2 rad counters. Oh, you may have it ETB tapped. Okay. Adds colorless or draw a card. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each rad counter you have. So is that just one of them choices? Like ETB's tapped, rad card, or rad counters, and then you hope that you hit 2 lands so that it costs 3 left? Like, I'm just talking about not rad counter decks. Um, that's probably not worth it, but if you got a bit of rad in there, probably worth it. Overflowing Basin. I'm glad that they finished the cycle. Still not gonna use them though. Sorry. Viracetin Bog. I dig it. Great with mana doublers. So not necessarily um Mirari's Wake, but it's great in mana reflection or the one that triples land. So basically you tap 1, make 2, but really 4 in a doubler or 6 in a tripler. So it's pretty sweet. Fraying Sanity, I wouldn't like it in this deck anyway, but reprint Inexorable Tide, proliferating for casting spells. Pretty good in here. Branching Evolution, doubling the amount of counters going on your stuff. Guardian Project, drawing cards for casting or having creatures come into play. Hardened Scales, adding a counter to stuff. Tireless Tracker. Solid. I like it. Biomass Mutation, great with 1/1 counters. Casualties of War, something that I don't like running these kind of wraths, but I get they hit a lot. Finality, I would cut that one. Um, Darkwater Catacombs. Yep. Just some reprints here. Drowned Catacomb, Exotic Orchard, Fetid Pools, Hinterland Harbor, Nesting Grounds. Oh, that's a nice reprint in here. Move encounters around, Sunken Hollow, Temple of Deceit. Temples are great. Temple of Mystery, Woodland Cemetery, Mortuary Mire. I like that one. Opulent Palace. Path of Ancestry for the mutants and zombies in here. Tainted Isle. Taint. Temple of the False God. Terramorphic Expanse. Do we already have that? Let's look at these. Swamps. I like that they're all full art. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize that they were all going to be full arts in here, but I dig that. I'm happy about that. These double-sided. Rad. Rad counter. Zombie mutant. Clue. Copy. Yeah, I dig that. I dig it. Cool. All right. Not terribly painful. Let's see here. All right. Science. All right. What's that? That's 30 minutes. Might try and pick it up a little bit, but it's all that fun stuff anyway. Did they used to have dice in these? Not seeing any dice, but maybe that's okay. All right, let's get that collector booster pack open. Hey, it'd be greatly appreciated if you hit a like button there too, if you get in there. Let's see here. Let's see what we got. Sentinel Sarah Lions? Loins. Haste. As long as the artifact entered the battlefield under your control this turn, creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever she and at least 2 other creatures attack, deals damage equal to the number of artifacts you control to target player. Okay. It's kind of like that one. I don't know about that, but ooh, Arcane Signet. I dig that. I dig that quite a bit. All right, let's get rid of the back first a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know what I'm doing. Come on. All right. Dr. Madison Lee. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, get an energy. So this is an energy artifact kind of spell a little bit. But then it has like first one is +1/+0, gains trample and haste. Next one's draw a card or return. Last one's return an artifact card from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. All right, Liberty Prime recharged. Vigilance Trample Haste for 5 mana, 8/8. That's a lot, but whenever it attacks or blocks, sacrifice it unless you pay 2 energy, and then you can sack an artifact and get 2 energy. That's probably too much, unless you are absolutely in an energy deck and you just got energy to fucking toss around. So, um, otherwise, that's good. That's an aggressive card. Paladin Dense Steel Maverick, 3/3 Vigilance Lifelink. Whenever you exile it, each creature you control that's an artifact or human gains indestructible until end of turn. Probably a little too specific for a lot of decks, but it's going to be worth it in some of them Urza's decks. So, Nerd Rage. It's kind of offensive, but all right. Whenever it enters the battlefield, draws 2 cards. It's an aura. Enchanted creature has, if you have no maximum hand size, and whenever this creature attacks, if you have 10 or more cards in hand, it gets +10/+10 until end of turn. That's pretty sweet. I dig it. That's big. That's big. And a nice aura. Robarian Warmind. Its power and toughness is equal to the cards in your hand. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you get an amount of energy equal to the number of artifact creatures you control. And then whenever it attacks, you may pay 3 energy if you do draw a card. Let's doing a lot there. Not a legend, but um that can be decently big. It's not going to die if you get an it has the ability to gain energy equal to the number of artifact creatures you control. So at least 1. But yeah, that's cool. Bottle Cap Blast. 5 mana. Improvise. Deals 5 damage to any target. If access damage is dealt to a permanent this way, create that many tapped treasure tokens. I dig that. I dig that. That's that could go in like an Oscar deck or something. Maybe this one. You know, just depends on how many artifacts you got going. Elder Oyen Lions. Hey, probably related there, huh? 3/3 artifacts you control have ward 1. Whenever Elder Lions enters the battlefield or dies, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. I like that. Protection, a little bit of returning. Behemoth of Vault 0. Probably pretty solid against rad counters, right? Just getting a little bit of stuff back from that's milled. Behemoth of Vault 0 enters the battlefield. You get 4 energy, and then whenever it dies, you may pay an amount of energy equal to target non-land permanent mana value. When you do, destroy that permanent non-land permanent. But you can, if it dies, you can just target a token and it's dead. No energy needed. Camp? CAMP, I guess. Fortification. Oh shit. Is that equipped with a land? Wow, I don't think I knew that. There we go. This is the second fortified card out there. Whenever fortified land is tapped from mana, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. If that creature shares a color with the mana that land produced, create a junk token. 1/1 counter and a junk, but it's 3 and 3. Ooh. Ooh. Maybe untapping a bunch. Bobbleheads. This one is X target creatures you control get plus X +1/0 and gain indestructible until end of turn, where X is the number of bobbleheads you control. Only as a sorcery? So that's like for attacking before you attack. I don't know, bobbleheads. Expert level safe. When it ETBs, exile top 2 cards of your deck face down. One, tap. You and target opponent each secretly choose one, two, or three. Then choose those choices are safe and put all cards exiled with it into their owner's hand. Otherwise, exile the top card of your library face down. Probably too much for what you're trying to do. That's not bad though. You and target opponent each secretly choose one, two, or three. Then those choices are revealed. If they match, okay, sacrifice it and put all cards exiled with it into their owner's hand. Okay. All right. Bobblehead. Another one. 5. Tap it. Draw X cards, where X is the number of bobbleheads you control. Five's a lot. Nuka-Cola vending machine. 3 mana. 1. Tap it. Create a food token. Whenever you sack a food, create a tapped treasure token. That's going to be, I'm pretty happy to get that into my tree beard. Plenty of food being sacked there. Happy. Crushed Contraband, solid removal reprint. Dispatch, solid removal reprint. Swords to Plowshares. I heard that's pretty good too. Glimmer of Genius. Scry 2, then draw 2. Oh, that is a reprint as well. Thirst for Knowledge, solid reprint and artifact decks. Whirler Rogue. Yeah, I dig that as well. Unblockable if you're tapping 2 artifacts for any creature. Loyal Apprentice, creating a little Thopters. Yeah, yep, great reprint there. Unexpected Windfall has an additional cost of cast. Discard a card, draw 2 cards, create 2 treasures. Solid. That's newly printed right in the last couple of years, but what's that? Streets of New Capenna, probably. But good. Arcane Signet, great ramp. Everflowing Chalice. This probably could have been in the last one as well with all that proliferate. Great in proliferate decks. Lightning Greaves, best protection out there. Mind Stone, yep. Soul Ring, yep. Talisman, Talisman, Talisman. There we go. Thought Vessel. I haven't played this. I haven't played in a long time, but highly played. Automated Assembly Line, new one. Whenever one or more artifact creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you get energy. And then you can pay 3 energy, create a tapped 3/3 colorless robot artifact creature token. I dig that. I dig that quite a bit. Yeah, that can make a lot of energy, right? Whenever one or more okay. Damage to a player. Excuse me. So at most you're going to be able to get like 3 energy per turn and then can make a 3/3. Not a bad deal. Double strike changes it. More attacks, hitting more times in a turn is going to improve that as well. Brotherhood Scribe. Metalcraft, tap, you get an energy, activate only if you control 3 or more. That's what Metalcraft is. You don't have to. Whenever you get 1 or more energy during your turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Oh. Oh. That's quite good. So no matter what, if you have Metalcraft, all your creatures are going to get 1/+1/+1 during your turn. During whenever you do that. But if you have multiple instances, so let's say you have that commander cast a couple of artifacts as well, and then +1/+1, if you just cast 2 artifacts and tap that, your yeah, just creatures. I was wondering if it said like artifact creatures or something, but yeah, your creatures get +3/+3. That's crazy. That's quite good if you have any sort of energy interaction there. Over encumbered. ETB's enchanted opponent creates clue, food, junk token at the beginning of combat enchanted opponent's turn. That player pays 1 for each artifact they control. If they don't, creatures can't attack this combat. So it's kind of nice. It has to be on an opponent. But it's not a creature. Okay, so it's on the opponent. I feel like those should be curses. Oh well, it is what it is. The Pride Wind Steel Flagship. Whenever another non-token artifact ETBs under your control, create a 2/2 white human knight. This creature gets +2/+2 as long as an artifact enter the battlefield under your control this turn. That's cool. I like that. 6 mana's maybe a bit, but man, that's not a once per turn. Another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under. Yeah. Well, that's solid. That's solid for sure. And it makes its own crew. Yeah, I like that. I like a bunch of these cards. I'm kind of impressed by this, but Sentry Bot Flash. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature attacking you. Whenever Sentry enters the battlefield, you get an energy for each creature attacking you. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 3. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Well, yeah. Yeah. Does a lot. I'll bet you that's a good saga. Curie, Emergent Intelligence. 1/3. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. Matthew was building a pretty cool deck around this idea. And then you can exile another non-token artifact creature you control. Curie becomes a copy of the exiled creature, except it has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. And so, like Lupaline, Werewolf, or whatever, and it's a 5/5 that doesn't do much, but it's just 2 mana. And so you can turn Curie into a 5/5. I dig it quite a bit. James Wandering Dad. Um, Investigate X time, and then you can tap it to get to colorless and only do it for activated abilities. Could be something in like 3 mana. Yeah, probably just want it in like a food or investigate deck, I guess. Non-green. Nick Valentine, Private Eye. Can't be blocked except by artifact creatures. It is a detective too, so they just started that detective thing as a creature spell. But or another artifact you control dies, you may investigate. Okay. Another artifact creature you control dies. That is an artifact creature. All right. All right. I dig it. I like investigating. Not sure if I want to do like investigate and energy in the same deck, so I don't know why he's there other than just kind of what's going on. Synth Infiltrator Improvise. You may have it ETB as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it's a synth artifact creature in addition to its other types. Okay. Nice little clone with the improvise. Quite a bit. I like give me all the different clones you can make, Wizards. Do them all. I love the ideas. Assaultron Dominator. When it ETBs, you get 2 energy. Whenever an artifact creature you control attacks, you may pay energy. If you do, put your choice of 1/1, first strike, or trample counter on that creature. Okay. I mean, all right. The Motherlode Excavator. We already did that one. We can skip it. Plasma Caster. Whenever the creature gets +1/+1, equipped creature gets +1/+1. So this is obviously an equipment. Whenever it attacks, you get 2 energy, pay 2 energy, choose target creature that's blocking equipped creature, flip a coin. If you win the flip, exile the chosen creature. Otherwise, Plasma Catcher deals 1 damage to it. So it's either an exile or 1 damage to it. You get something like Death Touch on that creature, you might be able to kill it before the block damage goes through. Otherwise, it's exiled. I kind of like both options there. I dig it. Kind of like that little dealy. Synth Eradicator. Whenever it attacks, exile the top card of your deck. You may get 2 energy. If you don't, you may play that card this turn. You may. So you can exile the card. You may get 2 energy. And if you don't, you can play that card this turn. And you could pay 3, deals 3 damage to any target. I could dig that. Hmm. I like where that's going with it. I like, like energy always has a couple of layers if it's able to get what's going on. And so when you got a card that can create it and use it, I think that's something. If it's doing one or the other, it's probably not enough. And as long as it's not a combat trick. This one's science. Pew pew sus. Allo grande. Thanks for joining. So doing science right now and just talking about energy. And I like synth eradicator. Don't love it. It's hard to know where energy goes, but I do like it when it can create its own and use its own. Oop. Arcade Ganon. Draw a card, then discard a card, put a quest counter on Arcade Ganon, and then once during each of your turns, you may cast an artifact or human spell from your yard with mana value less than or equal to the number of quest counters on Arcade Ganon. Well, that's something new. It's a artifact or human, so it can be any artifact. I kind of like that. Draw a card, discard a card. You can put something in your yard that you can recast right there. 1 mana, 2, 3. That's pretty solid. Like, let's say you get like 3 activations out of it before the end of the game. I'd be pretty happy with that. Being able to draw a couple of extra cards is always nice. The discard isn't terrible. 4 mana is maybe a little rough for what's going on, but it's also nice, especially like in a precon against the rad counter one. You're going to get a lot of value off of that, I'd say. Oof. Let's see if I'm not even going to try that one. All right, counter target spell. You get an amount of energy equal to its mana value. Yeah, that's going to go in every energy deck ever created from henceforth. Red Death Shipwrecker. It taps, go target creature an opponent controls. That player draws a card. You add red. All right, so you're goading one of the creatures. They get to draw a card, but you add a red. So it's like mana and controlling, you know, some of them, they got to attack a little bit. I'm going to adjust this just a wee bit. But they get to draw a card. Them drawing a card's a little rough. That's cheap. That's cheap. Goes in plenty of decks. That dragon, that Falcon Wrath or something. No. There's a red blue dragon that goes and stuff like that. So I think that goes there easily. Rex Cyberhound. Whenever Rex deals combat damage to a player, they mill 2 and you get 2 energy. You can pay 2 energy, choose target creature card in a graveyard, exile it with a brain counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. Rex has all activated abilities of all cards on exile with brain counters on them. That's pretty cool. So Rex deals the damage, creates the energy, and then has the ability to do it. And you could do it as many times as you want in a graveyard. Doesn't have to be your graveyard either. Okay, so you can exile from anybody's graveyard. You're milling them. 3 mana solid, decent for this. That seems like a fun card. I don't know if you want to build around it or not, but that seems like a fun card. Sentient Sarah Lions. I opened that already. Don't need to talk about it twice. Sean, Father of Synths. Whenever you attack, you may create a tapped or attacking token that's a copy of target attacking legendary creature you control other than Sean, except it's not legendary and it's a synth artifact creature in addition to its other types. When Sean leaves the battlefield, exile all synth tokens you control. Oh, I like that they stick around. Whenever you attack, you may create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of target attacking legendary creature you control other than Sean. So you'd have to have a second legendary creature. That's probably solid in the 99 of any commander you want to be copying. Um, so like if I put that down next to Calmax, I'd be pretty happy about that. Just making copy after copy. If they killed that, all the synths go away, but that's probably okay. You know, Magus Lucy. Oh, the creature has to be attacking though too. I mean, there's plenty there. There's plenty there that you'd want to do. I like that. Vault 112. I'm not reading any of the sagas. Fun. Brotherhood Vertibird. Oh, this is the one that Adam was talking about. Vertibird. Yeah, yeah, that's a cool word. 3 mana. Flying. Whenever its power is equal to the number of artifacts you control, crew 2. That can be a big beater. Cool. T45 power armor. Whenever ETBs get 2 energy, equipped creature gets +3/+3, doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay energy. If you do, untap equipped creature and put your choice of menace, trample, lifelink counter on it. +3/+3 and doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. All right, so it doesn't give it vigilance, unfortunately. Um, I always think of this stuff outside of the energy box, and I just because otherwise it just ends up being too insular, and it's like it is just for an energy deck. And if that's the case, that's fine. But I don't plan on building an energy deck, and so I don't know how much I really like this. So basically, you can untap your creature twice, and that's it. If it's non-energy, and I don't know if I love that here, but Furious Lake, nice little filter land. Helios 1, you get an energy, you can pay 3, pay X energy, and destroy target oh, you gotta sacrifice the land, destroy target non-land permanent with mana value X. Activate as a sorcery. I like that. I like that. Being able to just create energy. Austere command, classic. Open the vaults. Great way to return a bunch of artifacts enchantment. Great against your rad decks. Mechanized production. Oh, all right. Yeah, that's a good way to win the game, especially in like Thopter or, you know, anything that's creating a bunch of tokens. It's the way to be. One with the machine. Draw cards equal. Oh, that's a reprint as well. That one has Tezzeret on the other one. But draw cards equal to the highest artifact you control. Wake from the past. Return all artifacts cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. They gain haste until end of turn. I dig it. That's a reprint as well from the Oscar deck. Mystic Forge. Colorless deck plays this from the top. You're talking about like, morph, all that kind of stuff works as well. It's a great card. Panharmon Panharmonicon. Yep. Fantastic. Solemn, also. I like that art. I don't know if I mean, you got so many options now. Still classic. I don't know how many people use Solemn anymore at this point, but it's hard not to put them in decks every once in a while. Steel Overseer, great in those artifact creature decks. Clifftop Retreat. I kind of like that they put these in here. I dig it. Um, Exotic Orchard, Glacial Fortress, Irrigated Farmland, Prairie Stream, Sky Cloud Expanse, Spire of Industry, One Life, any mana for or any color, and if you have an artifact. Yeah, I dig that. Sulphur Falls, Temple of Enlightenment, Temple of Epiphany, Treasure Vaults. Um, oh, I don't think I realized that was a reprint. Adam looked through this one, so I didn't take a real hard look at the deck, but Treasure Vault's a great reprint. Wayfarer's Bauble, yes. Ash Barrens, Buried Ruins, no. Command Tower, Evolving Wilds, Myriad Landscape, Mystic Monastery, Path of Ancestry, Razor Fin Bridge. Oh, that's right. Okay. Razor Tide Bridge. All right. Rush Vale Bridge. Those are the indestructible artifact lands from Modern Horizons. And then the sweet, sweet basics, huh? All right. Got that. Cool ones. All right. That's 2 down. Let's see here. All right. All right. So we have Scrappy Survivors. I kind of looked through this deck, and so I have a little bit more opinion on it since I'm not just reading it for the first time. Tossing stuff and things. Let's see here. Let's crack that pack, eh? I haven't. Did you want me to move over that since you're hanging out with me? I can. I'll hold off on that. I can be the last one. Or these are the last two, so. I can do whatever, man. We're just hanging. Let's see here. I'm going to get to it all either way, but not everybody's going to hang out for the entire night. I know it's a Thursday. Let's see here. All right, let's do Caesar. Think about the deck. All right. Recon Craft Theta. That was proliferating from the mutant deck, and then Stolen Strategy. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Till end of turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled cards, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type. Oh, that's a reprint. All right. Let's see here. All right, let's do Caesar. There we go. We're just going to go through that back end of lands real quick. Desolated Mire. I like those filters. Oh. Let's speed that up a wee bit. Canyon Slow, Clifftop Retreat, Dragon Skull Summit, Isolated Chapel, Shadowborn, Smoldering Marsh, Temple, Windbrisk Heights. Oh, I've always liked that one. Not impressive, but I like it. Nomad Outpost, Path, Taint, and then pretty basics. Down. All right. Let's see here. Whoa. I thought I had some like printer lines here, but it's just part of the foiling. All right, Caesar, Legion's Emperor. Let's see if we can. Whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, choose 2. Create 2 1/1 soldiers that are attacking. You draw a card and lose a life, or it deals damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control to target opponent. I dig that. Whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. This in Ishin is going to be pretty cool. Problem is that I took apart my token version of Ishin, so it's a bummer. But Ishin's a badass. BT dubs, and this is pretty cool. Like Ishin, I think goes in this deck if you're making it, because being able to like sacrifice a creature, create 2, and draw a card, maybe just doing the damage and then sacking one of these creatures to make 2 more and do more damage in a turn seems crazy on that attack trigger. So I dig it. Mr. House President and CEO. Whenever you roll a 4 or higher, create a 3/3 colorless robot. And if it's 6 or higher, instead, create that token and a treasure token. Pay 4, tap it, roll a 6-sided die plus an additional 6-sided die for each mana from treasures spent to activate this ability. Whenever you roll a 4 or higher, create, and that's not specifying the amount, how big the dice is. And so if you have those like older dragons, like old Gnawbone, you're rolling a 20-sided die, like you're going to get this. I guess it's not gonna be old Gnawbone, but there's some work there to be done. You'll be able to get a bunch of 3/3s that way. I like that a lot. I don't know how much rolling dice is in here, but Gary Clone, Squad 2. Squad's pretty cool. I like that as an ability. But whenever it attacks, each creature you control named Gary Clone get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it attacks alone, it gets +1/+0. You make two of them. So if you pay 4, they each get +2/+2. And if you pay 6, they each get +3/+3. Eh, eh. Attack triggers, though. Again, attack triggers. And it's a decent little way of making a bunch of little guys if you have that open mana. Butch, Deloria, Tunnel Snake, Menace. Whenever Butch attacks, it gets a 1/1 counter until end of turn for each other rogue and or snake you control. You can put a menace counter on another target creature. It becomes a rogue in addition to its other types. For each other rogue and or snake you control, I mean, that's not bad because you're able to create the rogues to a degree, create, but change rogues over. Rogues has at least some support from Lorwyn block, um, and Zendikar, the last Zendikar that we did there. And so there's enough to work with there. I don't know about the snake part, and I want to say they just switched all Nagas over to the snake creature type. So you might have a little bit more to work with in that regard as well when it comes to just like playing with synergies. Um, but I like that. It can get big with the menace. All right. Ruthless Rad Rat. Rad. Squad. Exile 4 cards from your graveyard. And then it has menace. So like, okay. So you pay 3 mana, remove 4 cards from the yard, you create 2 of them. So 2/2/2s with menace. That's I mean, you can make a bunch there, especially if you're in that kind of deck. If you're in like self mill or somebody's milling you. I think it has to be self mill if you're planning on it being there. But as a in this deck, probably pretty fun against the rad deck. Craig Boone, Novak guard, 3/3, reach lifelink. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, put 2 quest counters on Craig. When you do, Craig deals damage equal to the number of quest counters on it, up to 1 target creature, unless that creature's controller has Craig deal that much damage to them. Again, solid with Ishin. I think Ishin just heads this deck almost, or you just slide it in and it's gonna get a lot of triggers in there. But I like that. The lifelink's really nice. You're gonna be able to gain some life that way too. People are gonna probably try and block and kill it. Legate Lanius, Caesar's Ace, 2/2. Whenever ETBs, each opponent sacrifices a tenth of the creatures they control rounded up. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a creature, put a 1/1 counter on Legate Lunius. Enters the battlefield. And so when it ETBs, everybody's going to at least sacrifice 1. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. 1/10 rounded up. So if the fraction is 1/10, you're rounding up to 1 at least. So if they have 20 creatures, they're going to get to that second creature sacrificed. It has to come into play. Why are you making me do so much math? Wizards? Yeah, that seems right. Um, okay. You could definitely put it into sacrifice deck whenever an opponent has to sacrifice a creature for the 1/1 counters to happen though. So like if you were running some scions or something, it's not going to help you. All right. Seems fun though. White Glove, Gormand, 2/2. Whenever ETBs create 2/1/1 human soldiers, at the beginning of your end step, if another human died under your control this turn, create a food token. Seems like a lot of work right there. ETB, create 2 humans. Whenever a human dies, create a food token. Are f are humans food in this one? Oh my. Alright. Another charisma bobblehead. Alright, 4 mana, tap it, create X/1/1 soldiers, where X is the number of bobbleheads you control, activate only as a sorcery. I'm guessing there's only what? There's 4 decks, there was 2 in the last one, so I'm assuming there's 5 to 6 bobbleheads total? I don't know if any of these are worth it, but could be fun, especially if you're, like, copying them or something. Oh, there it is, lucky bobblehead. Maybe they all had 2, I just missed the first one. So 8? 8 seems like enough to work with. Uh, rolling a six-sided die where X is the number of bobbleheads you control. Create a tap treasure token for each even result, and if you roll exactly 7 times, you win the game. All right. I like that this one's like cheap to accomplish. So when it works, this is the first other like roll dice thing in this deck. So I mean, obviously, I think you're taking out the roll dice for the attack triggers or vice versa, but it seems like attack triggers is getting a lot of work here. Yeah, and the booster collectors, the bobbleheads are serialized. Ooh, that'd be serialized is always really cool to see. A survivor med kit. Choose one that hasn't been chosen. Tap one, tap it. Draw a card. Create a food token, or target player loses all red counters. Sacrifice survivor's med kit. I like the draw a card part quite a bit. So what is it? You draw a card and then you create a food token. Like again, this is probably really good on Oscar. Because you can just bring it back and have 2 of them. Maybe an Emery, that's probably pretty solid as well, just bringing that stuff back. You got that green black elf from Innistrad. Innistrad? Mirrodin. There we go, Mirrodin. That's alright. I like it. It's nice, cheap, great value. Impassioned Orator. Whenever a creature ETBs under your control, gain 1 life. That's a reprint, I'm pretty sure. Intangible Virtue. Alright. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance as an enchantment. I like that. Bastion of Remembrance. ETBs create a 1/1. Oh, whenever a creature you control dies, everybody loses 1, you gain 1. I like that one as a reprint. Deadly Dispute. Sacrifice an artifact or creature. Draw 2 cards, create a treasure. Oh, dope. That's a good card. Great reprint. Morbid Opportunist. Also a great card for a reprint. Lots of drawing cards. Should be had by all. Pitiless Plunder. Also, second reprint in like 2 months, but hey, treasure tokens are dope. General's Enforcer. Legendary humans you control have indestructible. That's a reprint from Ikoria. Heroic Reinforcements. That's ugh. I get why it's here, but I don't like it. Wear and Tear. Great reprint. Great reprint. Arcane Signet. Yep. Skull Clamp. Woo! Always can use more skull clamps, right? Soul Ring. Talisman. 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 Great cards. Just don't need to talk about them. Ash Barrens. Command Tower. Evolving Wilds. Memorial to Glory. Reprint. Aradesh, the Founder. This one has Enlist. And then whenever a creature you control attacks, if it enlisted a creature this combat, that creature that attacked gains double strike until end of turn. If that creature's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. Uh, that's kind of cool. I don't know if that's a. I don't think that's a reprint. I don't love the idea of Enlist, but there were some creatures back in the day where you can tap and add like +1/+1 or 2 and 3. And I like that it's giving it a lot more flexibility. And I know that Enlist is not new here, but I do like the idea of that being used a bit more. Battle of Hoover Dam. Enters the battlefield, choose NCR or Legion. Okay, so this is one of those siege cards. At the beginning of your end step, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it, which means if it leaves the battlefield, it is exiled. Whenever a creature you control dies, put 2/1/1 counters on target creature you control. Oh, I like that quite a bit. Like if you put that in a Tesa, that's a death trigger. That's a death trigger, folks. Um, I like that returning thing. That's gonna do some work. That's a playable card right there. Overseer Volt 76. Um, Power 3. Whenever it or a creature with power 3 or less ETBs under your control, put a quest counter on it. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may remove 3 quest counters from among permanents you control. When you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and they gain vigilance until end of turn. Okay, so it comes in, it gets a is that a quest counter? There's a counter on it, and then creatures it's fine with tokens, which is nice because if you just go wide with some tokens, bop, 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 do it a couple times. I'm down with that. Oop. Securitron Squadron. Artifact creature robot, squad 3, vigilance. Whenever a creature token enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it. Oh, that's cheap. Oh, that squad's a little expensive, but I mean, if you get whenever a creature token enters the battlefield under your control, put all right. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may pay 3 any number of times when this creature ETBs. Create that many tokens that are copies of it. Okay, so if you pay 5, you're gonna get this and a 2/2 creature that's gonna get a 1/1 counter from it. I'm not sure if it would give itself a counter. But if you pay 5, you get a 2/2 and a 3/3, maybe a 4/4. 8 scales really nicely as well. They probably both see each other, so they at least give each other one. So they'd at least be 2 4/4s, if not 5/5s. And that'd be pretty good for 8. I wouldn't be displeased with that. I think that scales pretty well. The 3 squad don't love, but I like at 2 in a token deck, like it just works. I like it. Sierra, Nuka's biggest fan. All right. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on Sierra and create a food token. And that you can do that 3 per turn. So 1, 2, 3. Deal combat damage to a player. So yeah, if you can hit each player, you can create 3 foods, get 3 quests. Whenever you sacrifice a food, target creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of quest counters on Sierra. All right. Yeah, that can make till end of turn. That can make it really big though too. I don't know if that's gonna be good enough in Treebeard, but the food's pretty nice. More creatures you control deal combat damage to a player. 4 mana's a little high, but it's nice. I ain't reading no sagas tonight. Sorry, folks. Yes, man. Personal Securitron? All right. I'll read that a couple times tonight. Come on. Tap target opponent gains control of Yes Man. When they do, you draw 2 cards and put a quest counter on Yes Man. Activate only during your turn. And then when Yes Man leaves the battlefield, its owner creates a tapped 1/1 white soldier creature token with a quest counter on it. I like that. I like Humble Defector. And so I like this. And if it dies, you're able to get more creatures out of it. I think it's sometimes fun to pass around a creature that can draw people cards. You give it to people that need it a little bit more than others. It moves stuff forward. I dig that. That's spot removal, split second. Do it. Wasteland Raider, Squad 2. Whenever ETBs, each player sacrifices a creature, each player. So that's including you. So if you can squad to it, so 6, 4-3, you and everybody sacrifice 2 creatures. Um, and 8 is everybody sacrifices 3 creatures. The great thing about these cards is you can always have them sacrifice themselves. Um, I like this as in addition to the flashbag marauder um section of cards. I like it. Mysterious Stranger, Flash, one of the ETBs for each graveyard with an instant or sorcery card in it. Exile target instant or sorcery card from that graveyard. If 2 or more cards are exiled this way, choose one of them at random and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Enters the battlefield for each graveyard with an instant. Exile target instant or sorcery. If 2 or more cards are exiled this way, choose one of them at random and copy it. You may cast the copies without paying it. I kind of like that. So let's say 4 instances of sorceries, randomly pick one of them and casting it for free. Um, Now if somebody has something in a graveyard and like you have to pick it, like there's only a blasphemous act in there and you don't really want a wrath, 25% chance of hitting that. Okay. That seems fun. That seems like a lot of fun. You blink that a little bit or, you know, copy it. I like that quite a bit. Also, it's exiling stuff from graveyards. It doesn't go back, right? You're still casting it. No, you're copying it. All right. Powder Ganger, Squad 2. I like Squad. I like this deck. Enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact. I like the Squad part of it. Is that a rare? It is a rare. So if you pay 5, you get 2/2/2s that destroy up to 2 target artifacts. Not a bad deal. I love it. Rose Cutthroat Raider. First strike, 3/2. At the end of combat on your turn, if you attacked this turn, create a junk token for each opponent who attacked. Whenever you sacrifice a junk, add red. Um, if you attack this turn, create a junk token for each opponent who you attacked. So you can create, if you attacked each player, you get 3 junk tokens, and then you can bop, bop, bop. That's a powerful card. I like that quite a bit because it's only having to attack them, not deal damage. And so you can, and the junk is nice, card advantage to a degree, and then it's adding red mana. I like that card a lot. I like that a lot. That's another one of them that I really like. This deck? Yeah, I think I really like the attack triggers in here. I think they're doing a really, really good job with that. The squad seemed to be really balanced. So, but still solid. Thrill Kill Disciple, Squad 1, discard a card. When it dies, create a junk token, 3/2. Not bad. That cheap squad, and then if you could discard your hand, do something with it. Wild Wasteland, skip your draw step. Ugh. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your deck. You may play those cards this turn. No thank you. That's actively bad. I don't like that one bit. Nope. Boomer Scrapper. Whenever it ETBs or attacks, you lose a life and create a junk token. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on Boomer Scrapper. I like how it just works together on itself. Makes a ton of sense to me. Enters or attacks. Yeah, junk tokens are good. Column, Colonel Autumn. Column. All right, 2/3, lifelink, exploit. Other legendary creatures you control have exploit, and whenever a creature you control exploits a creature, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Um, I dig that. Again, layering in on itself. Um, Normally, when you exploit, you're doing it for a reason. So you're doing it for the 1/1 counters on each creature you control. Okay. I can make a cool, like a nice big army. 1/1 counters on it. Descendamona, Freedom's Edge, 3/4 vigilance. Whenever it attacks, target creature card in your graveyard. That's an artifact. Has mana value 3 or less. Gains escape until end of turn. The escape cost is equal to its mana cost plus exile 2 other cards from your graveyard. Oh, that's a cheap escape. I'm happy with that. I like that quite a bit. That's a cheap escape. It's mana cost and exile 2 cards. Just have to attack. That creature gains escape on the attack trigger. Again, Ishin or any doubling of trigger Strionic Resonator. 3/4 vigilance. That's a solid card. I'd be very happy with that one. Being able to get stuff back. Elder Arthur Maxon. 4/2 creature tokens you control have training, and then sacrifice another creature. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Elder Arthur. So yeah, 1/1 counters on tokens and a little bit of protection to itself. I dig it. Simple. I mean, nothing. I don't think it's gonna be crazy. Kellogg Dangerous Minds. First strike haste. Whenever it attacks, create a treasure token. Sacrifice 5 treasures. Gain control of target creature for as long as you control Kellogg. Activate only as a sorcery. That seems like it's nice because it's like that's gonna be good. Again, Ishin, 2 treasures. You can't steal creatures off of creation because it's sorcery speed, but as long as it doesn't die in combat and you create enough treasure, you're gonna steal a creature. Um, I like that it has haste. That's good. That's a solid card. McCready, Lamplight Mayor. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, it gains Skulk. And then whenever a creature with power 4 or greater attacks, its controller, loses 2 and you gain 2. A little bit of protection for yourself, a little bit of protection for the creatures. I dig that. Cheap, 1/3 for white black. It's a way to be it. The Nipton Lottery. Choose a creature at random. You gain control of that creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Then destroy all other creatures. You gain control of that creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Then destroy all other creatures. Okay, so you can randomly choose your own creature and then it survives the wrath, or you're randomly taking somebody's creature. It could be nothing. You know, like a little 1/1 dingy nothing. Um, that's rough, but cool. I'll bet you that's fun. I'll bet you that's fun for sure. Paladin Liz Taggarty. Whenever it and at least 2 other creatures attack, draw a card. You may put a creature card with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, where X is her power. That's pretty good. Cheating stuff out is pretty good. You you're gonna be able to draw a card off that draw trigger or that attack trigger. I like that quite a bit. Let's see here. Vault. We don't do sagas here. All right, Desolate Mire, new filter land. I like that quite a bit. EDE Lonesome Ibot. Ibot. It has 2/1 flying. Whenever you attack, if the number of attacking creatures is greater than the number of quest counters on EDE, put a quest counter on it. Pay 2, sacrifice it, draw a card, then draw an additional card for each quest counter on it. Okay. Yeah, I like that 2/1 flying. You can sacrifice it. I might like this in Lara Croft a little bit there. So legendary being an artifact, sacrifice it, recast it. I like that. Diamond City ETBs with a shield counter on it, colorless, and then you can tap it, move a shield counter from Diamond City onto a target creature. Activate only if two or more creatures enter the battlefield under your control this turn. Okay, all right. Putting that at a rare as well. I like. I don't love shield counters because if it would be dealt damage or destroyed, remove a shield counter from it instead. And so it just has to be dealt 1 damage and the shield counter goes away, right? Am I thinking wrong about that? Even though it's been around for a while, I never played standard, so but that seems bad, right? They just chump with a 1/1 and the shield counter goes away. So, yay. Captain of the Watch. Solid used to be an aggressive card back during Lorwyn standard, but it is what it is now. Soldiers, entrapment, maneuver. That's a nice little like destroy on attack. Reprint. Hour of Reckoning, destroy all non-token creatures. Nice reprint. Keeper of the Cord. Great, great card. I like this one a lot. It fills a lot of holes on its own. Marshall's Anthem. Okay. They just reprinted that in Lord of the Rings too, but Martial Coup, I used to play this a lot. It was a fun one. Just wipe the board, had 5 plus counters on it, or creature tokens. Secure the waste, more creature tokens. Black market. Look at that. We just got that in the secret layer, and now we're getting it here. It used to be really, really powerful. 5 mana is quite a lot, but you can get a lot of mana out of this one. Lethal Scheme. I like the Convoke there. Stolen Strategy. Just had that one. Anguished Unmaking. I like that one too. Nice, solid pinpoint removal. Assembled the Legion. Just reprinted in Ravnica Remastered. Fervent Charge. Huh. All right. They just, there you go. +2/+2 for attacking creatures. And Ruinous Ultimatum. Great reprint right here. That's fantastic removal. So solid removal in this deck. I think overall, I really like how aggressive this one is and how wide it can go pretty quick. And that's kind of what it is. I'd like in this deck, I would definitely suggest adding more protection. Um, because a Wrath is just going to ruin you. And so that's how I'd kind of look at it. Most of the time, if I'm going wide and having a lot of creatures, I want to make sure I have enough protection, be it, Teferi's protection or just all your creatures gain indestructible. Just making sure that you're putting all that work in and it doesn't go for naught. So, but otherwise, I like it. All right, last one. We're going to do Scrappy Survivors, but let's see here. Oh, struggling on that. Last little collector's booster. Ooh. Duchess Wayward Tavern Keep. We'll probably see that in the deck and Keeper of the Cord. There we go. All right. Last deck here. Been pretty happy with some of these reprints, but the new cards are always what I'm buying for. All right, let's get rid of a bunch of these lands. Ash Barrens, Buried Ruin, nope. Evolving Wilds, Jungle Shrine. Oh, Roadside Reliquary. I like that one. Rogue's Passage, Temple, Terramorphic, Basics, tokens. All right, Dog Meat Ever Loyal. When an ETB's mill 5 cards, return an aura or equipment card from the graveyard to your hand. Whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, create a junk token. This is doing plenty. So again, I every deck has a plan against rads. and it doesn't seem like Rads has a plan for everything. So I have a feeling that Rads are pretty powerful. Secondary, just being able to bring back an aura equipment, but also junk seems like it's gonna be pretty cool. I like I like that a lot more than like blood tokens. Um, I probably like it better than clues as well, just being free. I'd probably want a little bit more top deck um manipulation and stuff like that. All right. Obadiah is saying mine came out great. The biggest nitpick I have is the mutate wasn't part of the Mothman deck. Oh, yeah, yeah. Mutate isn't a part of the Mothman deck. Mutants are. I'm kind of glad that they didn't, but also it could have been done because it does seem like every other deck has, and maybe we can consider mill with the rads, like the lower part, but there's like a casual side. So with the red, black, white deck, that's like attack trigger, get really aggressive, and then a sprinkle of cards have rolling dice. Um, and so I don't know where I'm going with there. Starting to get a little tired. um, but I think I think they're all pretty solid in their own way. I don't know if I really like the energy deck. There just still isn't enough there to work with, probably. But I'd have to, if I wanted to build it, I would. I'm not going to. All right. Dog meat's cool, especially aura equipment. As I said in the podcast, I would stick to one or the other if I'm building around dog meat. That's just my own opinion, but you're going to get better cards that really help out in one way or the other. There's a handful of cards that split the difference like dog meat, but at the same time, you're going to have less choices to a degree. That's what I'm going with, sticking to it. Preston Garvey, Minuteman, creating whenever it attacks, you get to put an aura on one of your lands that allows it to tap for any color of mana, which is cool. And then whenever it attacks, untap each enchantment permanent you control. So I was thinking about building this because Cole said that I should. And I just this is like a lot of work versus like a Jorn deck from Kaladesh. And that really didn't even work. And so this feels like it's more work, but also Jorn doesn't have as much to work with, towards like there's plenty of auras out there to work with. So, I mean, this is what it is. I think it's a fun deck. If you want to build this one, definitely I think it'd be a lot of fun. Brotherhood Outcast. When at ETBs, choose one. Either bring an aura equipment with 3 or less CMC from the graveyard to the battlefield, or put a shield counter on target creature. Dig it. Either way. Commander Sophia Daguerre. It comes into play and destroy up to one target legendary permanent, and that permanent's controller creates a junk token. It's too specific in trying to get rid of a legendary and then giving them a junk token. I don't. I'm not a fan of that one. Acquired mutation. This is an aura. Creature is goaded and +2/+2, and then whenever enchanted creature attacks, they get 2 rad counters. So a little bit of rad in here, eh? Crimson Caravaner? Double strike trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a junk token. So potentially twice. 3 mana is not bad for the double strike and the trample. I like that quite a bit, especially if you're putting an aura on it. Ian the Reckless. Whenever it attacks, if it's modified, you can have it deal damage to it. It's equal to a power to any target. I like that as well. Like, that's an attack trigger if it's modified. Just a 1/1 counter on it could be really nice. I could dig that. Bright Horn Rancher, 5 mana. I don't like it one bit. I'm not going to talk about it. Breakdown. 3 mana instant, destroy an artifact or an enchantment, create a junk token, instant. There's a lot that I like about this. So, Gunner Conscripts, trample. It's 1/1 into for each aura and equipment attached to it. And then if it dies, if it was enchanted, create a junk. And if it was equipped, create a junk. So 2/2. Yeah. All right. 2+2. If you have both those on there, it's a 4/4 with an aura and an equipment on it. And then if it dies, 2 junk tokens. All right. Super Mutant Scavenger. When it ETBs or dies, return up to one target aura or equipment from the graveyard to your hand for 5 mana. It's not doing a whole ton in that regard. Could be okay. It's going to be solid against the red counter deck. Like just any graveyard interaction is going to be nice against the mutant deck, but otherwise, well rested. I like this one a lot. But whenever this creature becomes untapped, put 2/1/1 counters on it, and then you gain 2 life and draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Um, I don't care if that's once each turn. You can untap it each turn, and you're doing pretty good there. Agility Bobblehead taps for mana. You can pay 3, tap it up to X target creatures you control each gain haste until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste, where X is the number of bobbleheads. Um, I mean, giving haste and making unblockable other than creatures with haste is pretty good. And for 3 mana, that's probably the fairest cost that there is. Still not going to play it. Perception Bobblehead, 3 mana tap. Look at the top X cards of your deck, where X is the number. If you can, and you can cast a spell with mana value 3 or less from among them without paying its mana cost. So if you can set the top again and just do the one, because yeah, I like that one. That one seems good. That might be my favorite right there. If I had to play with one. Silver Shroud, costume flash. When an ETB is attached to target creature you control, that creature gains Shroud until end of turn. Equipped creature can't be blocked. So this is like a flash version of Whisper Silk Cloak, because it can't be blocked, but that Shroud is only until end of turn. So get go eat some dinner if you keep on talking about food, Renshy. It's fine. You don't have to hang out here. But that seems cool. I like that. All That Glitters is a solid reprint in this kind of deck. Path to Exile, I heard, is pretty good. Valorous Stances, solid. Sticky Fingers, I like that a lot as an aura. Great reprint right there. Um, Abundant Growth, meh. Fertile Ground, meh. I get it. It should be in here, but and if you're doing this kind of aura deck, then it's fine for sure. Ranker, one of my all-time favorite auras ever printed. Squirrel Nest, hey, there we go. Wild Growth, just being able to untap all that stuff is really nice. So Behemoth Sledge is a nice equipment reprint. Arcane Signet, yep. Brass Knuckles, what do we got here? Whenever you cast a spell, copy it. Oh, this is the double strike from Streets. All right. Explorer Scope, attacking. Yeah, nice one. Fire Shrieker giving double strike to the equipped. Soul Ring. All right. Codsworth Handy Helper. Commanders you control have Ward 2. Great protection there. Taps to add 2 white. Spend this mana only to cast aura equipment spells. And then you can tap it, attach target aura equipment you control to target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. I really like that, especially in this kind of deck, but any kind of aura or equipment deck is really, really gonna like this. Oh. Protection, a little bit of ramp in that kind of deck. Dig it. Idolized. Aura. Whenever this creature attacks alone, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of non-land permanents you control. So it's giving everything exalted. That's a non-land. And so if you have this on one creature and that's all you got, it's at least getting +2/+2. That's aggressive. If you didn't know, now you know. Pre-war formal wear. Whenever it enters the battlefield, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from the yard to the battlefield and attach it to pre-war formal wear. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has vigilance. That's solid value. 3 mana. to get a creature from the yard, it gets +2/+2 in vigilance, and the equip 3 is not amazing, but just getting that kind of value right there, solid. I like it. Vault, again, we do not read sagas here. Duchess, Wayward, Tavern Keep. This is one that I pulled, but did not read it. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on it. You can pay one and remove a quest counter from her, and you create a junk token. All right. So you can have a you can get a bunch of quest counters on her to create a bunch of junk counters that you can potentially move to get the junk counters and then some. All right. All right. I don't know where you're putting that, but Grim Reaper's Spirit, 5 mana. This spell costs 3 less to cast if a creature died this turn. Aura, whenever ETBs untap each creature you control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase this turn. That creature has +2/+2 in haste. So you can have this be, jeez, red and a colorless. The creature gets +2/+2, and there's an additional combat phase after this one. For a red and a colorless, each creature you control. Wowza. I like that a lot. I think I missed that when reviewing this deck. That's a good card. Junk Jet. Whenever ETBs create a junk token, sacrifice another artifact, double equipment, or double e- double equipped creature's power until end of turn. Okay. Megaton's Fate. Choose one, destroy target artifact, create 4 treasure tokens, or it deals 8 damage to each creature. Each player gets 4 rad counters. Little bit of rad in this one, but I dig it. We don't read no stinking sagas. Veronica, Dissident Scribe. 3/3 menace. Whenever it attacks, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw a card. Discard a card, draw a card. Whenever you discard one or more non-land cards for the first time each turn, create a junk token. And that's a may discard and draw. You don't have to if you've already done it that turn. Um, and so if you have a way to do it on other, I can dig it. I can dig it. Animal Friend, Aura. Whenever this creature attacks, create a 1/1 green squirrel. Put a 1/1 counter on that token for each aura and equipment attached to that creature other than Animal Friend. So you're kind of Voltroning and you'll be able to put counters on it and stuff like that. I dig it. Strong back. I enjoyed this one. Equipped abilities you activate that target enchanted creature cost 3 less, and aura spells cost 3 less too for that one too. Enchant creature has +2/+2 for each aura and equipment attached to it. That's an aggressive card. That's a very aggressive card. So I like that one quite a bit. Almost perfect. Base power of the aura'd up creature is 9 plus, or it's not. It is a 9/10 and indestructible. Not bad for 6 mana right there. Armory Paladin, 3/3 trample. Whenever an aura or equipment spell, whenever you cast one, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until end of your next turn. So those are big differences. You want to be able to look out for, is it the next turn that I can play it, or does it have to be this turn? This turn is much worse than next turn just because you're using mana already to trigger whatever's happening. This gives you enough time to be able to untap and cast that if you so wish, and so, this is solid. I like that quite a bit. Kate, Cage Brawler, 1/1. As long as it's your turn, she has indestructible. And whenever you attack, you and defending player each draw a card, then discard a card. Put 2/1/1 counters on Kate if you discarded the card with the highest mana value among the cards, tied for the highest. So it's already indestructible. I like that fight part. I like the little bit of draw and discard. And so probably not doing, but I'm sure she's a cool character and whatnot. Cast Hand of Vengeance. 4/3 vigilance. Whenever Kate or another or Cass or another creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return any number of aura cards that were attached to it from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to another target creature. Then attach any number of equipments that were attached to that creature. Yeah. Okay. It's alright. It's trying to fix up the problem of aura and equipment is putting so many resources into putting that stuff on there. But inventory management. Instant split second for each aura and equipment you control. You may attach it to a creature you control. So, great way to just kind of switch things around a little bit. Nobody can react, and then you're going to be able to protect or survive or deal damage or whatnot. So, three dog Galaxy News DJ 1/5. Whenever you attack, you may pay two and sacrifice an aura attached to three dogs. If you do, you get an aura that's copy of it for each attacking creature. That's pretty dope. I like that one quite a bit. Moira Brown Guide Author 2/3. Whenever she enters the battlefield, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Wasteland Survival Guide with equipped creature gets 1/1 for each quest counter among permanents you control and equip one. Whenever you attack, put a quest counter on target non-land permanent you control. Okay. All right. Has to be non-land, 2 man. Mr. Gutsy, 2 mana, 1/1. Whenever you cast an aura equipment spell, put a 1/1 counter on Mr. Gutsy. When Mr. Gutsy dies, create X junk creature or X junk tokens, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on it. Um, yeah, they can do something. I like that it's 2 mana. I don't. eh. Junk tokens could be really good. I'm interested in playing with junk tokens, so that'll be fun to play around with. Pip Boy 3000. Whenever another creature attacks, choose one. Either draw a card and discard a card, or put a 1/1 counter on that creature, or untap up to 2 target lands. Equip 2, 1 to come down. That's pretty good. Pretty good indeed. Lots of value. Whatever you need to have happen. It's like maybe a little Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, a little bit. So, Junktown. You can pay 5, tap it, sack it, create 3 junk tokens. Not a bad deal. Oh, just like that. Scorched Divide, new filter, Mantle of the Ancients, great card for any aura. Um, does it get equipment as well? And equipment. So bring stuff back from the yard. You drawing cards 1/1. It does work. Pure Steel Paladin, going to draw cards off of casting equipment and free equips. Single Combat is some removal stuff. Blasphemous Act is some more removal stuff. Chaos Warp is a classic reprint. Heroic Intervention, thank you for more reprints of that. Basilisk Collar, probably my favorite equipment ever. I know I'm basic, but Lifelink and Death Touch. I mean, Vampire Nighthawk was my favorite creature for a really long time, so I dig it. Bloodforge Battle Axe. This is the one that creates tokens of itself when it deals damage. Yeah, so that's cool. Great reprint right there. Champion's Help, nice protection for your legends. Masterwork of Ingenuity, copying equipment, reprints nice. Canopy Vista, Cinderglade, Clifftop Retreat, Exotic Orchard, Mossfire Valley, Rootbound Crag, Scattered Groves, Scavenger Grounds, nice removal on those rads. Shelter Thicket, Sungrass Prairie, Sun Petal Grove, Temple, Temple, and Swiftfoot Boots. Kind of got hidden there a little bit, but yeah. Well, that's kind of everything right there. Thanks for sticking around with me. Remember to hit that like. I liked everything here. The only one was probably the science deck where I was kind of, I don't know, like I think it's something that you're going to really enjoy if you want to build energy with it, but if energy is still not your thing, or you still have a sour taste in your mouth from Kaladesh, it's probably not something that you really wanna buy. It kind of it's they don't really work in other decks very much, and if that's not something you wanna be doing, then it's definitely something to avoid. But otherwise, like, the Rad deck is pretty cool. This one, Aura and Equipment, that's gonna allow you to do a lot of stuff in the future with different decks. The red, white, black one is an aggressive attack trigger one. Plenty of places all those cards can go. So those are the 2 that I would say are you're gonna almost always have, like, an Aura Equipment deck. And so dog meat is gonna get you a lot of help there. Um, and then just being aggressive humans, I mean, that's an easy way to go. And the mutants, I think, is probably the most interesting. And so you got some zombie tribals in there. You got some mill that's gonna move the game forward. I'll bet you that's gonna be a lot of fun. So, otherwise, yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Um, Let me know what you're excited to build or excited to play with and get your hands on. Otherwise, you have a good night. Bye.